Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 7, Episode 3.
Welcome back, friends. Today we're relaxing at my dining room table with someone much funnier and more clever than I. Our guest today has more views on YouTube than I have pennies to my name, so big shout out to alumni Sawyer Bryce for connecting us. Welcome to the show, local YouTube funny guy, Sven Johnson.
Big funny guy. No, I'm not that big. Also, Sawyer's alumni? Doesn't alumni mean graduated?
From the show.
Graduated from the show. Wow, okay.
Yeah, right?
I expect a cap and gown when I'm done here, Chris.
Dude, well, we do take Polaroids, so you can have like a little memento.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got a Polaroid wall then? You put them up?
Dude, I actually do have a bunch, yeah. So, no, I can take multiple, so you're welcome to have one. And since I have a shop and I have a bunch of my merch in that shop, and since you live in Eau Claire, I will happily give you a jacket or something, just like the Hall of Fame.
What?
Yeah, okay. Dude, for real. Cool. So, who are you and what are you passionate about?
I'm Sven Johnson. I'm passionate about... I do videos on YouTube. I make videos. I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about music, performing, acting. I was like, growing up in high school, I was in sports, but I really shined in theater and like music and stuff. That's where I was most passionate, I'd say. I was in band and choir and then the drama department, in plays and stuff. So I would say arts is what I'm most passionate about.
Do you do other art, painting and stuff?
I never really had the dexterity to do that. I tried, this is a weird story. I'm full of weird stories and like sidebars and stuff, by the way. One time I tried getting into painting and I had just taken a weird like fever dream nap on this couch that used to be in my dorm freshman year. And I woke up from this nap and I was like, I gotta start drawing. And so I went to go to my notebook and then I just was like, I want to learn how to draw a human profile. So I Google human profile, like male profile. And I don't know if I was still in the dream or not. But here, I'll show you the exact picture that showed up on Google when I Googled this. I was like, what the? Here, 1 second. I got to let it load on my Visco here. So like picture me, just woke up from a fever dream. Some weird thing inside of me told me, you got to draw. And I decide I want to draw a profile picture, like a face. Sorry, I should have maybe specified that. Profile face. And then this picture shows up.
Whoa.
That's me.
What?
That's me on Google Images.
How is it you on Google? Who did that?
I don't know. And this is when I was a freshman, so I wasn't that big yet. I had maybe 100,000 subscribers at that point. Like, I doubt anyone specifically went to draw me, but like, see that face in front? That is me.
It's definitely you.
And so I was like, this is a sign that I probably should not do this anymore. Somebody's already been there.
Yeah, interesting. I thought that maybe that'd be the sign that you have to do it and learn how to do portraits better than everybody.
Also, I sucked at it, so that was also part of the sign. Okay. I just gave up pretty easy. I don't know. I'm impatient sometimes. So I guess to answer your question in a very long roundabout way, I do not paint. I do like, I make videos, obviously. I edit my own stuff. That's kind of an art. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
And then I make music too. I play piano, guitar, and then drums are like my primary instruments. And I sing.
Oh, you do sing. So do you do like solo stuff? Like, is there a place that we can go and listen to your solo stuff?
Well, yeah, I guess I have one song on Spotify. It's just for the outro on all my YouTube videos. I have this one song, and then it's the full song on Spotify that you can listen to. But other than that, I've got a couple songs on my YouTube channel too. They're more like jokey type songs.
Like Bo Burnham type of thing?
Exactly, dude.
Okay.
I saw Bo Burnham's Inside, and I was like, son of a beat me to it.
Oh, dude, he's a genius.
Yeah, I know.
He's been doing that for a long time, to be real, though.
I know. Oh, that guy is so talented, and that's exactly what I want to be doing. But
he's incredible. I mean, I've seen like Miles Hass was a guest on the show. He has the Strip Down podcast, but he also owns Magic Men Live, which is like the biggest ladies' night in the world, male strip show.
Damn.
Yeah, he's bad. But anyways, he owns that. But when he started doing his podcast, he did video and all this. And I was hanging out with him in his penthouse watching him do it. and he had no background in how to do any of that stuff, but his stuff was looking so professional. It was because he was sitting there like 12 hours a day editing and learning how to do like everything. And then when I watched the, Bo Burnham Inside, that was actually funny story. We get to it at some point. I ended up getting COVID over in Croatia not long ago and got stuck there and had to quarantine in this garbage hotel, but thankfully I had internet. And the first thing I watched when I was in quarantine was that. But it made me think of Miles, because that dude didn't know what he was doing with all this video stuff and figured it all out over time just on his own. And that's like pretty special. You know what I mean?
Bo or Miles?
Well, both of them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can learn anything on the internet. That's just kind of a cheat code that my brother taught me in the last few years. Like, I would ask him editing advice all the time. Like, how do I use Adobe Premiere here? Or how do I do this in GarageBand? You just Google it on the internet. You will learn everything that you need to know.
Yep. YouTube is much more helpful than almost any college course ever can or will be. So anyways, how can people best follow you? How can they best get in contact? How can they see the things that you do?
Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It's just called Sven Johnson, Sven. Or if you just type in Sven, I'm probably the first one that's going to come up because not many people have that name. Or follow my Instagram. Just if you look up Sven Johnson on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube, I'll show up. I don't know. I don't want to give out all my different handles because it's like Swembo2000 and like _ Sven Johnson, blah blah blah. So, yeah.
I think if you Google Sven Johnson, you pop up pretty quick, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it's that hard to find. Just curious, who are some of your other favorite creators, whether it's YouTube or otherwise? You play music too, so just like shout out some people that you like.
Oh, some creators that I like. Well, in the YouTube space, honestly, I am very bad at watching YouTube videos. I've got a few people that I'm connected with through my brother. My older brother, Gus Johnson, does YouTube. He lives out in LA, and so I know a few other bigger creators. Like I've shot with Smosh, and I've met Rhett and Link. That was really cool. Some of my childhood favorite YouTube people, but I'm bad at watching YouTube, like I said. So honestly, I mostly watch like car videos on YouTube. I like Doug DeMiro. Shout out Doug, I guess. Bo Burnham, we were just talking about. Clearly, he started on YouTube, but he's more mainstream media now. He's a big inspiration for me. I really admire, if we're talking about like creators that I like, I really admire some of the stuff that like Jim from The Office. Excuse me for getting their name on the spot. I'm terrible at names. And which one was it? Was it Key or Peele who made Get Out? He's been directing all those movies
I'm not
lately.
sure, but
one of them has been making movies. It's like, oh my God. So here's a person who's in the industry, and usually you categorize them as an actor. But lately we've seen some of these creators like branching out, and I wrote and directed an entire movie now too. So I really respect that about, God, what's Jim from The Office's name? That's going to kill me. Anyway, we're just going to call him Jim from The Office.
yeah, perfect.
About Jim and then Key or Peele. look at me with all my facts.
Yeah. No, in general, though, I appreciate anybody when they can kind of like switch lanes and then understand they're going into a new space. And I feel like it takes a lot of courage to do that because you don't have anything really built behind you except for a lot of eyes watching. But you don't really have anything else. You know what I mean? Even people like Jonah Hill, like he frankly has been killing it, I think, and like kind of anything he's been doing, you know, like he was pretty much categorized as a certain thing and then was able to, go about and do different things. It's funny that you say like your favorite YouTube stars growing up, because like that didn't exist when I was growing up. YouTube wasn't a thing. I'm 31, so YouTube didn't come out until I was like a freshman or something in high school. So it really wasn't something it wasn't like huge until I was in like college. Then all of a sudden there were people making a full-time living doing comedy and like that type of thing on it. But it didn't exist when I was like a kid.
Did you watch in high school?
Not really, no. Social media wasn't even a thing when I was growing up. You know what I mean? It was just like a very different world. I mean, a lot of these things had started to come out, but they weren't like universally part of life. You know what I mean? Like they are now, where it's like very ingrained. My kids watch YouTube all the time, and I don't even know they're watching it. I come upstairs and I'm like, how did you even know how to turn that on?
It's rotting their brains.
Oh my God. It really is. Maybe they're watching yours and now it's really going to be rotten. So is your current YouTube channel the first one that you made?
Yeah. I mean, well, let me think about it. Actually, I didn't actually go through a phase. A lot of my friends and a lot of people in my generation went through a phase in like middle school where they made a YouTube channel and then years later they look back at it and go, oh man, I
Yeah.
made a video tour of my yard. People wanted to see that. I was so happy that I didn't start my own YouTube channel when I was like 10, because I know I would have made bad videos.
Yeah.
I would have. But I started my YouTube channel when I was 17. So this is 2017. I was born in 2000. So.
Oh,
5
damn.
years.
Yeah.
This is my first one. I've been going on it for a
So
while.
you're 20, 21? How old are you?
I'm 21, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I gave you a beer at the beginning. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
what?
wait a minute.
Did I just incriminate myself? Whoops. So can you tell me a little bit about the beginnings of the channel, where the idea first come from? I'm assuming some of it must came from your brother doing it. Did it hit like immediately? I scrolled back to oldest to newest and watched the first video, which like the progression honestly is a lot of the same really funny short things. But anyways,
Yeah.
can you talk about the early stuff?
Absolutely. I owe my YouTube channel's creation to my brother Gus. Because like I said, Gus has been doing YouTube for longer than me. When I first started my channel, Gus was maybe about 3 or 4 years into his channel of like regularly posting. And he had been telling me like, man, Sven, you got to get on YouTube. You got to start your own stuff, because I've been collaborating with him and working with him. And every once in a while I'd give him a funny idea and maybe he'd make it into a video or incorporate it somehow. He's like, you got to make your own video or your own channel. And so one time we were on family vacation and we were at the Griffith Observatory and we saw a door to the Griffith Observatory that said, entrance, do not enter. And Gus is like, Sven, here's an easy video. I'm going to film it right now. You're not going to say no. I'm going to film you just freaking out at the front door of this, going like, you know, like, what do I do? So I filmed that and then I put it up and it started getting views. The only reason Gus and I have views is because of Reddit. There was a subreddit at the time that was really big, and it kind of is still big now, actually, called YouTube Haiku, where it has to be a 30-second or shorter video. And so you'll notice most of my beginning videos were like real short, 30 seconds or less. We would post those videos and then people would put it on YouTube Haiku once we built more of a following, and they would just take off from there. And I remember the first day I posted my video, I was watching a volleyball game later that night, and I love volleyball, but I could not focus on the game. I kept on pulling out my phone and refreshing, and like every 10 minutes I'd have like 100 more views on my video. I was like, what? You know?
Yeah.
That's when it clicked for me. I was like, people like this little joke that I made. Technically, Gus made it. I've been open about that. That's not my video. And I was getting recognition for it. I was like, this is... I was a junkie. It was like, this is what I want to do, you know?
Yeah. So how long did it take? How long was it between the first video, second video, third video? How long did it take to say get the first 10,000 views?
First 10,000 views. I was
Roughly.
I was really fortunate. It was actually like my third video was the one that blew up. So my first video was that weird door one, and then the second one was a obscure meme that just kind of doesn't really make sense anymore. Or it's not something that I would post anymore. But then my third video was called How to Be a Moth. And then
I watched that. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the laughs.
It was really funny.
Yeah,
So
no.
if you can, keep going. You got to explain what it is, because
It's a video where, so it's How to Be a Moth. I come into the room, I'm wearing like a suit, and I've got a briefcase like I'm a moth. This is my day on the job. I've got cardboard wings on me as well. And I got a helmet on in the briefcase, or I open the briefcase and there's a helmet in there. I put it on and I go to the room where I'm filming, and it's one of those little circular light glass globes, light fixture type things. And I put the helmet on and I just jump up and like headbutt the light, and it breaks everywhere, and the video hard cuts on the break. And so that video took off like instantly. Actually, it took off on YouTube Haiku, the subreddit that I told you about, and it took me like a week to get 100,000 views on that video, and I was like, oh my God, this is really cool, because it's a joke that I thought was funny and people liked it. And I really like doing YouTube ever since then. I didn't actually tell my mom that I filmed that video until after it had 100,000 views on it, because that was my house that I grew up. I was 17 years old, you know, I was in my parents' house. And so I was like, okay, Mom, by the way, I busted the light fixture in my room, but I got 100,000 views. So it was worth it.
that for real, like I watched quite a few of yours and I chuckled, but that was the one. I was sitting in my hot tub actually like researching you earlier this morning.
Yeah.
And I watched that one and immediately was like laughing out loud so hard.
Thank you.
That video fucking ruled. Where did the idea for the joke come from anyways?
So I'm a tall guy. I'm about 6'5", 6'6", and I was walking around somebody's house one time and they had low ceilings and one of those glass globes.
Yeah.
And I almost actually just like destroyed that light fixture. And I was like, wait a minute, this is what moths do. Moth headbutt I could be a moth. And then like the video was born from there. It's just kind of fragmented ideas.
Do you have ideas like that and you just like keep them in a notes thing on your phone, or how's that work?
Yeah. I get video ideas a lot. And whenever I shouldn't say, I get video ideas a lot, like.
Yeah, it's not genius constantly, right?
No. Most of them are bad. So I've got about 100 or 200 video ideas and draft notes on my phone. And 90% of those will probably never be made. But anytime I have like a little fragment of an idea, put it down on my phone, log it away for later. And so I'll just go through like, okay, what's the video for this week going to be? I'll scroll through and see what I can turn into a video.
Sure. So I'm interested because obviously you're getting like some of your, I guess I don't know which video has the most views, but we're in the millions for some of these. So like, why go to college in the first place at all if you already see all this potential for, I guess we'll get into whether or not you were thinking monetization at that point, but like you already have all these views coming in. Why go to college in the first place? What are you going to college for? And has it been worth it? Like, what are you thinking? Are you going to finish college? Talk about college a little bit.
Yeah. So when YouTube first started for me, I was, 17, going into my senior year of high school. I wasn't making any money on videos then because, first of all, you don't make money on 30-second or less videos. That just does. The monetization really bumps up past the 40-second mark. It wasn't a job at that point. So I was like, well, I guess I got to go to college still just, because I'm probably going to have to get, a mainstream job. YouTube wasn't quite taking off for my older brother, Gus, yet at that point either. So I didn't see, this can be a career.
Right.
If you do it right. So I was like, well, college is a safe bet. Everybody goes to college. Also, college is fun. People want to go have new experiences. And once I got to college, I don't remember the exact number, but I was maybe around 100 or 200,000 subscribers when I first got to college. For the first 2 years, I was just kind of a slow, steady growth. And then about sophomore to junior year, I started seeing like actual monetization on my videos where I would actually, make money. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess this is my job now. I don't have to pursue other jobs. I don't have to, work at the bookstore. I never worked at the bookstore, but I was going to do that. But anyway, YouTube became my job. And that's when I was like, well, now college is kind of secondary, but I was in 2 or 3 years at that point. And it's like, I don't want to quit college because one, I love the experiences that I've had at college. Like I am on the club volleyball team and I am in the men's choir, the Singing Statesman at Eau Claire. I can't get those experiences anywhere else. And I am not 20 years old with 20-year-old knees at any other time in my life. I'm going to pay tuition and play on the volleyball team right now and sing with this great group of singers. So I think that's worth tuition. I think it's worth seeing through to the end of my degree. I don't know. That's why I'm still here. So I'll finish college, hopefully in 4.5 years. I kind of took a gap semester when COVID hit, but that's my plans for college right now.
Well, and you're the perfect college to be doing that. I mean, you're tall as so volleyball makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it is like very much like a music place to be.
Oh, for sure.
I'm curious. I went to college for 1.5 years. Really after the first semester, I didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in sales since forever. I always kind of imagined I would run somebody else's store or own my own. And obviously that's what ended up happening. But I figured out through sales that really all that matters is you can sell things to people or you can't sell things to people. And that's pretty much it. You really don't need a degree for that. And in fact, pretty much any company in a sales type environment are going to look at your sales numbers. Like whether or not you have a degree is irrelevant. They just want to know how much volume you're going to push. So after my first semester, I was like, this is kind of a waste of time. So I stuck around for a little bit and eventually I ended up going into different sales positions, moving up, management positions, whatever. And then I opened my store when I was 23 and it's still kicking and doing awesome, which is super dope.
Right.
The only class that I found was really useful to me in college was my interpersonal communications course.
Okay.
Because I tell people this all the time, one of the few skills you actually need to have, and we don't talk about nearly enough, is all you have to do is be able to sell yourself as a solution to people's needs. And you'll be successful. Even within the YouTube space, you're selling yourself as this channel is going to make you laugh.
Yeah.
And that's what people are looking for in that
needs
moment. That's exactly it. But that you're selling yourself as the solution. So communication is huge. You told me earlier that you're going to school specifically for communications. I'm curious, as far as like the actual academia, what's something you've learned that you think was actually useful?
Something I've learned that I think is actually useful from college, in the communication world, I gotta think about that one.
I'll throw one thing that I learned while you're thinking.
Yeah.
As far as like interpersonal communications, like I said, was going, one of the things that I learned from it that was really helpful, that was kind of like out of sight, out of mind, not necessarily that I didn't know at all, but you just didn't think about it, was the different forms of communication, such as like why you shouldn't have certain conversations via text. Because when you read it, people read it with different inflections. They read it in a different speed, so
Yeah,
just because you said
sure.
something a certain way, you're not aware that they're reading it in a totally different way. So depending on what the context, what it is that you're trying to say, what you're trying to talk about, there are different forms of communication and you need to choose the effective one.
Yeah.
And that helped me put things in perspective a little bit as far as like when I want to talk to somebody, or if I'm reading a text message as an example, or an email or whatever else, knowing that if this comes across really poorly, I should probably tell them, hey, can we talk? So that way I can figure out what inflection they were using before I jump to conclusions.
Yeah, I'm very much a verbal communicator. And I actually figured out my answer to your question when you were saying all that. The thing that I learned in college that's been most useful to me is how to communicate with people in a certain way. Because, I'm pursuing a communications degree. I have always been a procrastinator. I have always been a forgetful person. And I just don't get shit done a lot of times. And this might not be necessarily the exact answer you were looking for, but I've learned it in college and because of college. I wouldn't be as good of an interpersonal communicator if I hadn't been in situations where I completely forgot about this deadline and there's a paper that was due today and now I'm in class with my professor. You got to talk to your professor being like, hey, I'm sorry that this didn't happen. Is there any way can I get an extension on this? That's one thing that I've learned in college because I've had to have that uncomfortable conversation a lot of times, or like say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to be out of town this weekend. Can I move this deadline a little bit further? Or, if you just need clarification on a project, even something as simple as that, learning how to deal with your professors and talk to them and just ask for help when you need it. That is something that I've learned in college that I probably wouldn't have learned if I didn't go to college. I don't know.
No, I think that's great. Honestly, I think people build problems up to be bigger problems in their mind, when realistically, if you just had an open communication with somebody, whether it's about a relationship or if it's a job, or if you're buying something and you're talking about how much money you actually have to spend, it's just like if you had an open conversation from your point of view, so that way the person isn't trying to play your mind and they just know what's happening.
Yeah.
They're a lot more open to like be kind and talk back to you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's like the biggest thing in all this, in this realm of communication, where it's like, oops, I made a mistake. Can I have some forgiveness? Is you never want to be angry at them. You never want to be like, well, I didn't know the deadline was today. Can I please just get an extension on it? It's always got to be apologetic and kind. And I've straight up missed 2 finals, like final tests, and I have been able to retake them because I've just like been like, you know what, this is my fault. That's a big thing too that I learned, is realizing a lot of times it's my fault. And if you admit that to people, they'll be a lot less hard on you, and they'll be a lot more forgiving. And so both of those professors let me retake my final, like in a different environment.
You're an incredible communicator, and that's awesome. So I'm curious. You said at some point you realized that you could monetize your channel. Can you talk about when that was? What was the trigger for that? And then what was kind of your thought process as far as like, oh, this is going to be my career,
Yeah, that was, I'm going to say, probably end of sophomore year for me. So that would be, 2019, I want to say. 2019 is when I started to go, I love making YouTube videos and I love the subscriber base that I've built, but 30-second and shorter videos aren't paying the bills. And I had ideas for like longer sketch-based stuff because I grew up watching Key and Peele and all those other sketch artists like Julian Smith, or earlier Rhett and Link, like I said. I liked, sketches. Good Neighbor stuff is also a great one.
Whitest Kids You Know?
Whitest Kids You Know. I wasn't big on that's.
Oh, I loved Whitest Kids You Know. And now that guy just died.
I know, that's so sad. Anyway, yeah, I love sketches, and I wanted to make some, but I was scared that my subscriber base would just, want only 30-second videos from me. And so I was kind of scared to branch out. But then I don't remember what my first longer video was, but I remember it was around sophomore year where I made like a longer sketch type video. I think it was, hey man, check this out. It's just, I don't expect you to have seen it. A lot of stuff on the internet, but it was like a 3-minute video. And I was like, I'm going to put this out and see how people receive it, or see how well it's received. And it did really well. And actually that became one of my biggest series on my channel, is the Hey Man series. And I was so happy people liked, longer content. So then ever since then I've been making, I'd say my average video is like 1 to 2 minutes. So I make that length of video, and that is what, like I said earlier, 40-second and longer videos are what start to kick in the AdSense, and that's what starts to pay the bills. So 2019, to answer your question, that's when I figured out I can do longer videos, and people like them, and I love making them. So
did you start to have a business mind then, as far as like personal branding, merchandise, building an empire type brand behind all of it? Or were you immediately and only still now thinking like monetization strictly off ad space?
So for merchandising, I started making a clothing line called Beat Coastal. I want to say maybe around the same time, sophomore year of college, so 2019 for me. Beat Coastal is something, I can give you like the Reader's Digest version. This is going to be a lot packed into a little amount of time. But one time I was at a thrift store, I saw a red shirt with white block letters that said Beat Coastal on it. Nothing else. I just kind of like weird stuff. And so my brain was immediately like, I love that. That's my favorite shirt, because I didn't know what it was. And so I wore it all around all the time. I was maybe like 16 or 17 years old when I found that shirt. And then when I was in high school, I had a fabrication class where we could make t-shirts. So we had like vinyl cutter and a heat press and screen printer in this fabrication class, and I started making like a couple designs for Beat Coastal, and I was wearing those around in high school before I even had a YouTube channel. And then I would make YouTube videos, and then I had the Beat Coastal shirt on in them, and it's like, maybe I could make this into my own brand. Turns out Beat Coastal is from the East Coast. There's a college called Coastal Carolina, and then Liberty University is their enemy, their nemesis. And so every time Liberty University would play Coastal Carolina, they would make a bunch of these red shirts that say Beat Coastal on them. And so one of those shirts somehow landed in a thrift store in Minnesota where I found it, and I became enamored by it. And that's where the brand came from. I checked it's not copyrighted or trademarked or anything. So I just made like, Beat Coastal designs, and then I started selling shirts like that. And so in terms of merchandise, that's technically my merch. But then also I monetize my videos in the last year or two through like integrations, ad integrations in video. So like Dollar Shave Club will sponsor a video every once in a while. And I've got a manager who will find me different sponsors like that. My last one was some VPN, Surfshark VPN, I think. Something like that. But yeah, those are what help pay the bills more too, is when you can get big enough to the point where you can get, a company that will sponsor a video, and then you do like a 1-minute ad read on the end of a video, and then they'll give you a certain rate depending on what your view estimate is. But yeah.
Sure. Do you have plans to do a lot more outside of just the clothing line, or no? Because a lot of times people will pull off of YouTube and then kind of have a bunch of their own side stuff off of that. Is that not really part of the plan?
Right now, the Beat, like in terms of Beat Coastal, you were asking?
Beat Coastal, or just in general, anything you want to do, your own website or anything like that.
Yeah, right now it would be primarily focused on Beat Coastal. And honestly, Beat Coastal has been kind of on the back burner the last year. I've had a busier year, and I've been, to be honest, bad at just managing all the different things that I've got going on. So Beat Coastal kind of was pushed to the back. I'm very passionate about it still. I've got big things planned, but yeah, just look out in the future for Beat Coastal stuff. You can also follow Beat Coastal on Twitter or Instagram if you want. It's one of those social media sites where I'm only going to post stuff when I got something for you. So don't expect like constant updates and stuff about Beat Coastal. When I drop a shirt, you'll know, and then buy a Beat Coastal shirt, I guess. I don't know. But I am passionate about Beat Coastal. I got a bunch of big ideas in my head. So,
well, I mean, you're young and you're still going to college full time, and you're doing this YouTube video or YouTube platform pretty significantly. So I'm definitely not going to like blame you on any of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
we talked about tools earlier, such as YouTube University being like the super, super helpful thing. You also mentioned Reddit. What other tools have you discovered / used to kind of help you build what you've done?
YouTube has been the primary one, honestly. But then tools, honestly, I've gotten a lot of information. This isn't like a tool that's accessible to everybody, but my older brother Gus, he's been through the ringer. Well, not been through the ringer. That's the wrong expression. He has done a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, and he's made a lot of the mistakes that I would have made if I didn't ask Gus. What should I do on this video? Should I trim the fat on this one? Should I, blah blah blah. How can I edit this? And my grandpa is a very tech savvy guy. He actually used to own a tech repair shop in my hometown because I lived in the same hometown as my grandpa. And he had so many tools just in terms of computer and editing software and a lot of know-how that went with them. So I started editing on Sony Vegas Pro. My grandpa knew a lot about that and he was able to help me. So people have been my biggest tools as far as learning goes for me.
I'm curious, what are you trying to do with the channel next? So you've moved into longer skits, and it seems to me like you have a lot of the same people show up on your channel as well. What are kind of the plans for what's going to happen with it?
I love making sketches, and I still do love making short videos. Every once in a while I'll put out a short video, but I want to just keep making sketches. I tried a little bit of commentary for a while. Wasn't necessarily my thing. Maybe I just didn't find my forte, but primarily I want to keep making sketches and I want to do more music, whether it's serious music or just kind of joke songs, kind of similar to what Bo Burnham did. I love music so much. That's something I'm passionate about. I'd like to explore music more. That's kind of my plan for the future. I got music video ideas in my head.
Do you think once you're done with college, that's when more of that's going to kick in because the free time is going to pop open a bit more?
Absolutely. But then also, I am my own biggest enemy. I consider myself lazy a lot of times. I've got a few days at a time where I'm like, I could film a video if I only had, all the scripts written out or all the people that I need to film this video and stuff. I just don't get off my ass half the time. So, once I'm out of college, then there's no excuses anymore. So I think I'll force myself to be more productive in terms of the music area.
Well, thankfully in the space that you're at, honestly, some of those videos that have millions of views, couldn't have taken that much to put together. It was more just a great idea, right? But the actual production value doesn't have to be very high for little sketch things on YouTube necessarily.
That's great.
My parents, I don't think, understood what I was doing when I opened my skateboard shop because I worked for Verizon before. This was my last real job, 8 years ago now. And I made pretty good money. And it was a pretty straightforward kind of position where I make this amount per year, which means I can realistically afford this kind of car, this kind of house, and you kind of see the path. You're in a space where YouTube is obviously a huge thing, but it's a baby. It wasn't around when your parents were growing up. It was certainly not a career option to people. And not only that, but it's very much a big question as far as what's the longevity of any of this stuff. I don't think YouTube's going anywhere. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how's the dynamic been with your parents kind of seeing you all of a sudden blow up in this space and it becoming clear you're putting your time into that rather than going to be an accountant or something?
It's interesting because just to touch on the subject before I forget it, you had mentioned, I don't think YouTube's going anywhere. My parents are very supportive now, and I'll get to that later. But every time I have a video that gets a little fewer views than I'm supposed to, my mom especially will go well, YouTube's a dying platform anyway. It doesn't matter. People just aren't watching YouTube as much, but that's not the case. Videos just go up and down. Anyway, my parents are pretty supportive actually. They used to be harp on my brother Gus all the time, before he started to actually get paid from YouTube, the first 2 or 3 years. They'd go you got to get a job. You got to go apply at Family Video. This is where he was applying at the time when he was in college, because YouTube wasn't a job for him either until about sophomore, junior year of college. And so they weren't quite as supportive as my older brother Gus at the time. But then once they saw that, this can be made into a career if you do it right, then they were very supportive of him. And that was about when I started. So then they started supporting me more. It wasn't like, Sven, you got to stop with the YouTube nonsense. Get a real job. My parents are Bernie Sanders, I guess.
Yeah.
Get a real job, you dumb. But anyway, my parents are very nice, and I'm super happy that they've been supportive through this whole creative journey of mine.
Where do you see YouTube going? Because you kind of alluded to that a second ago. I'm just curious.
Where do I see it going? I don't know. The algorithm comes it doesn't come and go. The algorithm changes all the times in terms of, what it likes to promote to other people. Right now, it seems like YouTube is trying to push longer videos more. So like around the 20-minute mark, 10 to 20-minute mark, because I think they want creators to create stuff more along the lines of like a TV show, like you watch a 20-minute video. That's kind of like a TV show. So the algorithm will recommend longer videos a lot more. Is what I'm noticing, at least at this stage of YouTube. But, that's going to change all the time. The algorithm's always changing. I also don't know what the hell I'm talking about, so don't necessarily trust me 100%. Sometimes, the algorithm will boost a shorter video. I've had sketches that get on YouTube trending before, around the 2-3 minute mark. So I don't know. YouTube, I think, will remain largely the same for the next 5-10 years, but we'll see.
I don't think it's going anywhere simply because cable TV is like disappearing, but people wanting to be on screens is only going up. So I think there's just a lot of space for growth within a lot of these different types of avenues. YouTube TV being one thing they're really trying to capture, but generally speaking, videos aren't going anywhere. Obviously, everyone's on their phone all the time. YouTube, I highly doubt is going to disappear by any means. But anytime you're working any kind of social media space, YouTube still being like a social media platform, they're changing and they're evolving because they're trying to keep up with and they're trying to take market share from all the different other platforms that are going on, and you kind of have to continuously play with them. Do you put a lot of time and energy into any other platform, or are they kind of just you do 90% on YouTube and then you have the other platforms so that way they're there?
90%, and then the other platforms are all there, like you said. The others are mostly secondary. Like I started a TikTok, but I've just been almost exclusively like chopping up old YouTube videos and then like reformatting them so that they can go on TikTok, and they have done well. But I've been lazy about posting on TikTok also over the summer. Instagram and Twitter. Instagram I don't post on very frequently, but Twitter I actually am pretty active on. Twitter's great for like jokes, short like one-liners and stuff. Twitter's kind of like you're doing stand-up and you got a one-liner joke or just a little bit to share with the world. And so like every 2 days or so, I'll post a tweet that I think is funny. Who knows?
Dude, I've like straight up still not used Twitter because in Eau Claire, I don't think Twitter is like a huge thing in this particular space, but I've just really never been around it. None of my personal friends are super big on, well, now I guess that I travel around and I do the show, a lot of people I know are on Twitter, but I still to this day, like, don't really understand how all that stuff works. But I think the TikTok thing is very interesting. People don't realize that I guess they kind of realize, but they wouldn't have seen your YouTube page unless they saw the TikTok. Yeah. And that's like the kind of cool part about it is you can siphon and pull people from these other platforms.
And that was the goal for TikTok. Right. I shot to 100,000 followers on TikTok pretty quick. And I don't know how many of those people like were just people who knew me from YouTube who were like, oh, he's on TikTok now and subscribed to me there. Or like how many of them were, new people who found me. It's like, who is this funny guy? He showed up on my For You page. And then they, see, oh, this guy does YouTube as well. That was the goal of that platform, is to, rake in new subscribers and say like, hey, this is what I do. But I think I have seen a subscriber turnover from there. Definitely not all 100,000 of my TikTok followers instantly came over to YouTube.
Sure.
So I don't know. It's good to branch out to different platforms.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think the general rule of thumb is to put 90% into whichever one is your preferred and then 10% spreading it elsewhere. So that way, at least people can find you. So you do music and stuff, but what are some of your other interests? And in general, just curious, like overall life items, what are some bucket list things that you want to do?
Bucket list things. Well, let me consult the bucket list notes app. I've got a bunch it's all in one notes app, but I've got a bunch of different notes. I actually have written out a bucket list.
Really?
Yep. Every time I think of one, I just put it down. And I've got grandiose bucket list goals. But I mean, what's the point of dreaming if you're not going to dream big, right?
Absolutely.
Bucket list: become an Olympic athlete, preferably volleyball.
Okay.
I'm all right at volleyball. I started in college. I didn't have high school volleyball where I came from, but I think like if I actually just ditched YouTube and poured all my energy into that, I could maybe be that an Olympic athlete. Another bucket list goal: cover of GQ. Or Rolling Stone. I have in parentheses Rolling Stone will do.
That's like your oh my God, that's your backup.
Yeah, Rolling Stone would be fine too. Honestly, cover of any magazine. I was just like one day looking at GQ and I was like, I'm going to be on the cover of that someday. That's my goal. I want a top 40 song, top 40 charts. If I start making when I start making pop music. And then I want to be in a movie, preferably movies, and get my pilot's license. That's what I have on my phone right now for my bucket list.
The pilot license, that is actually something on my goals.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've never flown a plane. I really, really want to at some point, and then eventually maybe get the pilot's license on top of it.
It would be so cool.
Yeah, I did I read a book or something a few years ago, but for whatever reason, it triggered in my mind that I want to start saying yes to any opportunity to do anything that I've never done within reason, not like hard drugs. But generally speaking, like any opportunity that pops up, like I'm trying to do that. And it got to this kind of point of like ridiculous. I was walking my dog out in the woods and I was like, I want to do something I haven't done today. And what could I possibly do that I haven't done today? Or that I've never done before. And for whatever reason, it clicked in my mind. Never shot a handgun. I probably know somebody who has a handgun. No, I didn't buy one. But I was like, I probably know someone who has a handgun. And I thought of somebody and I texted a buddy and I'm like, you got a handgun, right? And he's like, yeah. I was like, you want to go shoot it? He's like, yeah, I want to go shoot it. So I went out and shot a handgun that day. And I don't even like have any real interest in guns by any means, but it was just more of like, well, I've never done it, so I might as well go do it.
Exactly.
So I ended up checking off a lot of ththings, but I still have a lot. Like I want to travel to every continent outside of Antarctica, which I'm getting close. Haven't been to Africa, haven't been to Australia, but I have traveled quite a bit. But I have a lot of things outside of my skateboard shop. I've been kind of pigeonholed as people assume I'm like the skateboard guy around here, which is true. I've been skating 22 years. Not that I'm incredible, but I'm decent and I've been doing it a long time and that's what my whole life was built around. But I actually do a lot of other things. Like I'm a scuba diver and stuff. Like I have a lot of interests that aren't skateboarding at all that people don't know. And I'm always like open to finding whatever that new interest is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Speaking of, you said you went scuba diving. That's really cool. That's in the same genre of activities that I'm going to add one to my bucket list right now.
Yeah.
Skydiving. I'm going to do that.
I did. See, I'm afraid of heights, and I went skydiving for my 27th birthday by myself. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I had the guy on my back. I didn't do it.
Oh, yeah. You can do like the first 20 with the guy on your back.
You can actually take a course so that way you do it without. It's like a static line jump. And whatever, that's besides the point. But that was one of the many things where I was like, what's something I haven't done? And I like literally sat there one afternoon and wrote a list of things I hadn't done. That was one of them.
Sweet.
And I was like, send it. I'm going to do this one.
That's cool.
So, yeah. So I did do that one. What's your favorite video that you've made and what's the story behind it? Why is it your favorite?
That comes and goes as well. But my favorite video right now that I've made is called All My Friends Are Growing Up Except for Me. It's a song video. I like it because it did well and I was really proud of it. I like the song that I made. And that's the type of content that I want to make more of in the future, where it's like a song. It starts kind of serious. It's like, oh man, all my friends are growing up except for me. Nobody wants to play the Xbox anymore. What happened? And then it just really devolves into like, nobody wants to sit around and poop in their diaper anymore. What happened to all my friends? When did they become so cynical? So it just kind of takes it to the extreme on that. But I don't know. I like that video of mine. I'm proud of it.
I almost watched that one, but I haven't watched it yet.
Didn't?
Dude, well, there was a lot of videos. So
I fault you in no way.
And I definitely fell into the ones that were less than a minute. And I'm like, well, I'll just check out a bunch of these.
And that's why I started making those, is because my attention span is so short and people are scrolling through. They see a 30-second video with an intriguing title and a thumbnail. Right. It's like, oh, I'll watch that. You know?
Oh, yeah, totally. That's exactly how it works. In fact, I talk to people a lot about music in that kind of way, where they're asking about like numbers of streams and stuff. People don't actually ask me that all that often, but I explain to people it's kind of hard to get people to listen to a podcast the first time. Because if you got a 2-minute song on SoundCloud, it's one thing when you tell all your friends, you got to check out my music. Because they're like, 2 minutes, I'll listen to the first minute. If I hate it, I'll turn it off. But sure, I'll play it. A podcast, when it says an hour, people are like, ugh.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sure it's great, man. I'll listen to it at some point. It's hard to get people to listen to it for the first time. I genuinely do think the show's really good, and I get a lot of positive feedback from it. So I think once people give an episode a listen, they end up liking it and they listen to a lot more. But it takes a lot to get somebody to commit to even doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you see that as an issue when you're posting your videos too? Do you ever like have that concern of like, maybe I should chop this 5 minute down to 3.5?
Yeah, for sure. People tend to like the shorter videos more, at least on my channel. Shorter videos typically get more views, but every once in a while you'll have a 3-4 minute video that does really well. And maybe it's just because the concept is great. Maybe it's because it had a higher click-through rate, which means percentage of people who saw the thumbnail and the title and actually clicked on it and watched it. I don't know. There's so many different factors. So like if I'm going to have a 4 to 5 minute video, I got to have a good concept where people go like, oh, that's something that I might be able to relate to. And it's got to have a flashy, poppy, attractive thumbnail. So I'm thinking about all these dumb YouTube things all the time in my head. But yeah, it's definitely more beneficial to rake people in and have them watch the longer videos. So I try to make my longer videos only concepts that I'm like, this I know is good.
Yeah.
This I'm passionate about.
Well, it's something you get better at over time, obviously. It's time to get to that point in the show. So when you do things that are unique and creative for a living, things that you actually enjoy, you kind of have more emotion invested into what you're doing rather than most people's jobs. It's more like they got a big paycheck because they signed this contract or whatever, but they're emotionally not very attached to it. When you do things that you're more emotionally attached to, you have a lot of really cool experiences and you're really, really grateful for them. I've shared a lot, which is why I don't share them usually anymore on this show because like I've been, I don't know, we're 70 some episodes in at this point. How many do you want me to share? But I like to ask every guest to share one. So can you share a story about a unique experience that you're really grateful for, but it only happened because you chose this YouTube thing?
Yeah, I absolutely can. And some might say that didn't happen just because you're on YouTube, but it absolutely did. So I was out in LA visiting my brother. First of all, Gus wouldn't live in LA if it weren't for, success on YouTube. I wouldn't be going out there if, I didn't have a reason to go out and shoot videos with people and collaborate. So I was out in LA and Gus is like, let's go watch a show at the Largo. It's a comedy, it's a theater in LA. And it was a comedy show we were watching. It was Pete Holmes was the headliner, as well as 2 or 3 other smaller comedians. So Pete Holmes does his bit and the other comedians go. And after, in between each act, Pete comes out and, he's like, there's a musical guest tonight that you guys won't believe who is here. And he just kept on saying, I'm not even going to tell you who the guest is tonight because you're just not even going to believe it. And I was just like, all right, he's just hyping them up, whatever. And Pete goes, the other 2 comedians go, and then he comes back out on stage. He's like, everybody, please welcome Phoebe Bridgers, which is like huge in the indie space right now. Yeah. Phoebe Bridgers is huge, and I love her music. And she came out and she sang so beautifully. I felt I was so lucky. This is the exact boost that I needed to just like, it was rejuvenating for me. Just seeing somebody perform their art so perfectly. I cried. Phoebe Bridgers was amazing. And then Phoebe goes, all right, guys, I got one more song I'm going to sing for you. I'm so mad that I didn't write this song. You know what? And then she motions off stage behind the curtain. She's like, you want to come out and play with me? And Bo Burnham walks on stage.
What?
Right? Bo Burnham has not performed live. I think he did 1 or 2 shows right before the pandemic because he wanted to get back into stand-up, but he hasn't performed live since like 2016, 2017, I think. Because he's been open about this. He had anxiety issues, and so he kind of drew back from stand-up. And so here I am. I was so lucky. It was a right place at the right time type of situation. It wasn't like advertised that he was going to be there. It wasn't advertised that Phoebe was even going to be there. But here is Phoebe Bridgers and Bo Burnham singing a duet of That Funny Feeling from Inside. And it was just the perfect moment. And it was everything I needed to go, this is exactly what I want to keep doing. I want to do music. I am so inspired by these 2 people who are sharing their art with the world. It was the perfect pick-me-up that I needed. And I just felt so lucky to have been in that place in that time. So,
yeah, I mean, luck favors the prepared, right? So you put yourself in those type of situations. Well, you do the right things long enough and things tend to just happen because statistically speaking, you've done right by enough people respect you, opportunities pop up. But still, Yes, that thing in particular, that is incredibly lucky and incredibly awesome, and obviously you deserved it, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
So now I like to ask about a mistake, because mistakes are the fastest way that you learn from things. When you take other people's advice and you make a mistake, you don't learn quite as fast, unfortunately. But if you stick with your gut and then you end up doing something you really believe in and it doesn't work, at least you learn, ideally, right? But hopefully we can learn from others' mistakes too. So can you share a story about a mistake that you made that taught you something valuable that somebody listening might be able to benefit from?
Yeah. Maybe people have heard a similar version of this story just told from a different person. But for me, especially like if you're pursuing stuff in like the entertainment industry, read what you sign. Because sophomore year, I found myself in a situation where it was a bigger Facebook page. I'm not going to say the name, even though I totally could. I'm not going to say the name. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to do a video deal. We'll pay you. It was a small amount of money. And they're like, we want to put this video on our YouTube channel. Or sorry, not YouTube, Facebook. We want to put this video on our Facebook page. And so they gave me a big, long contract. And I was 19 at the time. I was like, blah, 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 blah. Contract. Okay, here you go. Give me my $50 or whatever. And I did that. And then the next week, or a week after I posted that video, they're like, hey, we're good to go live with the next video. Just letting you know. And I was like, what? Next video? I didn't know that there was a next video. I signed something for this video. And they're like, technically you didn't. And I was like, what is going on? And then I read the contract more carefully. I had given them access to my entire video catalog. And it wasn't just like the wording in the contract was all of my content creations for eternity. Like it said eternity in the contract. Like they could use those how they wanted for eternity. And I was like, whoa. And I had a total like, what's it called? Hitchcock zoom moment where it's like, it zooms in my face, the background shrinks. I was like, what did I get myself into? And then I kind of argued with them on the phone. I had a few different phone calls. My brother got on the phone to help me out. We were able to breach the contract, but it was like a total dodge a bullet situation. And it's not like they owned it exclusively, but they could have done whatever they wanted with my content on their pages. So that was just a big learning moment, big mistake I had in terms of like the entertainment industry and the stuff that I create. So
yeah, I think you just have to be very, very careful who you let into certain circles when you're giving them access to certain things. It's one thing about like people say, be careful who you're friends with. I kind of hate when people say that because like you should have your heart open to having friends, but there's a very different thing to inviting somebody into your home versus giving them a key to your home.
Yeah.
Right. So it just depends on what kind of like leverage that you're giving people. But when you're going into any kind of actual business or anything like that, yeah, you have to be super, super careful and you can't be naive. It's nice to assume they have your best interest at heart, but it's business. There's money involved. It's realistically, the smart thing is just not to assume that they have your best interest in mind. And realistically, if they have any kind of business sense, they're not going to be offended if you don't assume that that they have your best interest in mind anyways.
Yeah. That was the thing for me, is just like not assuming that everyone is like, not assuming that everybody has my best interest in mind.
Right.
That was a total naivety thing. You're right. You're older than me. You have more experience. Look at you. You knew it. I was 19. I didn't. So
I know only a couple of things. But anyways, so now that we're at the end of the show, give us again, where can people find you? Where can they follow you? How can they contact you? And in general, how can they support you moving forward?
Yeah, you can support me. The best way is by subscribing to my YouTube channel and watching my videos. It's just Sven Johnson on YouTube. Look me up there. If you want to follow me on socials, just type in Sven Johnson on Twitter or Instagram and I'll show up. And follow me there. That's, the more followers, the merrier. I'm happy to have everybody be a part of, what I'm creating. And I thank you all for that. Thanks for having me on, Chris.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.